Hi, I'm Jamison Parker.
And I'm Darlene Parker. Welcome to A Dog's Life.
Today we're going to take a look at a dog that's always held a very special place in my heart, ever since I was lucky enough to be owned by one.
The Gordon setter we had was, well, like all Gordons, the epitome of affection, beauty, and devotion.
She was also a very talented and great-hearted hunting dog. So stay tuned while we take a look at the black and tan setter from Scotland.
When William the Conqueror invaded Britain, he brought with him a feudal system that had existed in France for about 200 years, ever since the death of Charlemagne. Under that feudal system, hunting and the ownership of hunting dogs were the exclusive privilege of wealthy property owners, which is to say the nobility and the aristocracy. In Britain, hunting birds with hawks was the sport of the privileged few, while hunting the same birds with nets was the job of gamekeepers charged with putting food on the tables of the privileged few. In both cases, spaniels were used that would lie down or set, holding the birds, and those setting spaniels gradually evolved into what we know today as setters. By the way, that instinctive trait of lying down on point still crops up from time to time in some setters, and while it's penalized in field trials, it's a wonderful example of an atavistic instinct. So setters have been around for many, many years, and for centuries, any setting dog was bred to any other setting dog, without much concern for looks. But around the end of the 18th century, separate breeds began to emerge.
The seat of the Dukes of Gordon was a castle near the mouth of the River Spey, known as Gordon Castle, close to the little town of Folkabers in northern Scotland. Alexander, the fourth Duke of Gordon, is the man credited with creating the breed that bears his name, although at that time they were called Gordon Castle setters. Actually, black and tan setters probably existed in Elizabethan times, but the story goes that the Duke realized that his shepherd had a black and white, or possibly black and tan, collie bitch that was good at finding game, and he mated her to some of his setters. It is also known that bloodhound was added to the mix, though whether this was done by the Duke or by other breeders is uncertain. The fourth Duke died in 1827, and the estate passed to his son, the fifth Duke, who only lived another 9 years, and when he died, the title died with him. The estate, however, and the dogs passed to his nephew, the Duke of Richmond, who took an active interest in building up a strong kennel of setters. It was during this time, in 1842, that a man named George Blunt imported the first 2 Gordon setters to America and gave one to Daniel Webster, the great American statesman, lawyer, and orator. The Gordon setter got off to a slow start in America. 2 things conspired to keep the Gordon from becoming as popular as it might have. One was the dog's beauty, and the other was the growing interest in field trialing. Field trialing is a sport where speed and stamina are paramount, and the heavier, slower going, and more methodical Gordon couldn't compete. Meanwhile, in the show ring, breeders were striving for an even larger, heavier dog with a more luxurious coat. Beautiful to look at, but not ideal for the field. In spite of all this, Gordons established a reputation for themselves with hunters, so much so that William Harnden Foster, writing of the Gordons' heyday as a grouse dog around the turn of the last century, called them honest, level-headed, methodical, and tireless. It's a description that still holds true today.
The Gordon Setter Club of America has as its motto, beauty, brains, and bird sense, and it pretty much sums up the breed. That lustrous black coat with its rich chestnut markings is about as handsome as a dog can get, and the brains and the bird sense are just as good. The Encyclopedia of North American Sporting Dogs describes the Gordon setter as more muscular and not as streamlined as other setters. Most Gordons are substantial dogs, and a large male from show lines can top out at 27 inches and weigh 80 pounds or more. But, as with the English setter, there's considerable variance depending on what line they come from. At the small end, it's possible to find field-bred Gordons in the 23-inch, 45-pound range. Which brings us to the question of show versus field. Linda Sanders of Chaparral Gordons has been breeding, showing, training, and field trialing Gordon setters for almost 30 years. And according to her, there's a considerable split between show and field lines. She hastened to add that most of the show dogs she knew, while they might not make field champions, did have a strong hunting instinct. The show dogs, with their long coats, might get hopelessly hog-tied in the first briar patch they came to, but the instinct was still there. Some breeders are trying to breed true dual champions, but the requirements of bench and field are diametrically opposed, at least as far as coat is concerned, and those breeders have an uphill battle on their hands. Time now for this week's Ask the Vet segment, brought to you by the Doctors Foster and Smith, America's foremost suppliers of pet care products. Let's join Darlene and Dr. Marty Smith as he answers your dog care questions.
Hi, welcome back. We're with Dr. Marty Smith of the famous Doctors Foster and Smith catalog, and we've got Marshall helping us out again today. Marty, we've got a terrific question from Jay Brent from Scottsdale, Arizona. He asks, I hunt in snake country out in the boondocks. What do I do if my dog gets bit by a snake?
Today in veterinary medicine, we have different ways of treating it, and I guess if there's any question and you're worried about it, then you should just immediately get to the veterinarian. There are antivenoms that are available. Some work better than others, but basically we treat these animals for shot and try to infiltrate the areas so the poison is either more diluted and not so concentrated to affect the dog. The vast majority of dogs bit by rattlesnakes do live, even without treatment.
I didn't know that.
Some of the areas I've hunted in Texas, we've seen dogs get bitten and I guess I can't say how much venom was in them, but most of those dogs end up doing just fine. But if there's any question it's your best dog, I think the right thing is you just go to the veterinarian. Training issues come into this too. A lot of articles have been written recently on people training their dog so they're not as aggressive toward the snake.
Right.
In the dog ahead of time to know that a snake is something it wants to stay away from.
Does that work, that training?
It does. It does help quite a bit, especially working with puppies and younger dogs to get them used to the idea that it's something they want to stay away from.
Great. It's scary no matter when it happens.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So the kits that you could take into the field, what do you think about that?
The kits that are made for humans usually don't work too well in a dog, and it's basically because of the type of skin and type of musculature they have. If you're going to be going to an area where there are a lot of snakes and you're concerned about it, probably a good idea to contact one of the local veterinarians, make a relationship ahead of time in case something would happen.
Excellent.
And just ask them what they recommend in their area. Different snakes, different areas of the United States, different levels of toxicity.
Yes, that's excellent information. Thank you very much, Marty. Thank you, Marshall. What a guy.
You're welcome.
For a complete line of products for your pet, from books to bumpers and from videos to vaccines, check out the Doctors Foster and Smith Pet Products catalog. Time now for this week's training class, brought to you by the Pointing Dog Journal and the Retriever Journal. So let's join editor Steve Smith as he shares some tips for your dog.
A lot of us travel fairly long distances to hunt birds, and naturally we like to take our best friends with us. The last couple of years it's been virtually impossible to fly a dog on the airlines, the expense and the hassle. So more and more people are throwing the dog in the truck and taking off. When you do, there's a few things that you should be aware of. First of all, naturally you're going to have to bring the food that the dog is used to, and I think it's a good idea even to bring 5 or 10 gallons of water that they're used to from home. You have to let a dog drink more often than you do, because dogs need water to stay cool. They drink when they're thirsty, but they also drink when they're hot. A dog can go longer without food than you can, but he can't go very long without water or without stretching his legs. When you stop at someplace like a rest area, it's a good idea to have a nice check cord. And I'm not too fond of running them in those dog run areas unless the dog's really up to snuff with their vaccinations. A lot of things can be picked up in a roadside rest area, like parvo even. So you do all of this and your buddy will have a good time. Motels usually aren't a problem. The internet has all kinds of places that are dog friendly. It'll let you know, just call ahead and they'll say, sure, it might cost you a couple of dollars extra, but hey, he's worth it. Aren't you, big guy? Let's go.
And the race is on.
It is proof of our dogs' remarkable adaptability that they can do the jobs we ask of them in unbelievably diverse terrain and under equally diverse conditions. It's a long, long way from the grouse moors of Scotland to the high desert of Southern California. But Linda Sanders' 2 gorgeous Gordon setters took it all right in stride. Linda Sanders of Chaparral Gordons joined me and Lisa McNamee for a day of hunting at the High Desert Hunt Club. and she brought 2 of her dogs, Lucky and Bang. Lucky is an AKC master hunter and has both derby and show points. Bang is a master hunter and a field champion.
We've got a beautiful point. Beautiful point.
Some Gordons point with a 12 o'clock tail, and some point with a more natural continental stance. For me personally, it makes no difference whatsoever, as long as the dog holds its point until I get there. Both Bang and Lucky had to hold points for a long time, more than once, and they never let us down.
Whoa. Whoa. Bang. Attaboy.
Oh!
Attaboy.
Oh, boy.
Come here.
I have to tell you, that was very beautiful.
The writer James Spencer has described Gordons as the Clydesdale of setters. Certainly they don't leave a trail of scorched earth behind them the way some of the hard-running field-bred English setters do. But against that is the fact that the calmer, more methodical Gordons can go all day long, several days in a row.
Oh, beautiful. The only thing prettier than a Gordon on point is 2 Gordons on point.
He just retrieved that bird. That's why those feathers are in his mouth.
He went literally from delivering to hand to another point in the space of about a minute.
Whoa.
Oh, no shot.
Southern California was in the throes of a drought, and the extreme dryness and unseasonable warmth both made for difficult scenting conditions. But remember, we said that bloodhound figures in the ancestry of the Gordon setter. Many people believe the Gordon has the finest nose of any setter, and some even claim the Gordon has the finest nose of any upland dog.
There we go. I'll just swing on the uphill side, Linda. Just beautiful.
Whoa. 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 Bang. Come here.
Good boy.
Good boy.
Good boy. My experience with the Gordon is a very sweet, loving, affectionate animal.
They're a good family dog.
I mean, is that a good generalization to
Yes.
make?
It is.
How about ease of training? Would you rate them as easy to train as hunting dogs? Hard to train?
Perhaps a little bit difficult because they like to play pouty. They like to get bummed out, and then people tend to want to not make them obey.
Okay.
They're soft, but still you have to insist upon obedience. So you kind of have to go through that phase of where they want to act wimpy.
How do you introduce them to gunfire? At what age?
Oh, probably the 3rd or 4th time or 2nd time that I have them out on birds, which I start them around 4 months, I think, on live game.
Okay.
Just fire a blank pistol when they're chasing the bird.
Okay, so they're always associating gunfire bird, gunfire bird.
Yeah, they hear it and it's like so in the background that they don't even pay any attention.
Right, right, okay. Oh, good. That's painting time. Beautiful. Look at that. God. Beautiful. Oh, okay, good. Good shot, Lisa. Now that's going to be a good retrieve.
Woohoo!
Yes! You got a point. Here, you go on this side this time. I'll go on the other side.
Lucky.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Good dog. Lucky, come.
Lucky never saw that bird fall and had to go search for it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was fabulous. He was pointing from down below, and he couldn't see over the rise where the bird fell. That was a nice retrieve. Nice retrieve.
Is the Gordon Setter the right dog for you? Well, it's hard for me to be objective here because my old Gordon, Miss Daisy, was such an exceptional dog. But let's take a look at them. Are Gordons drop-dead gorgeous? Yes, no question. But against that, you have to factor in the amount of work the coat will require after each outing. Are Gordons slower and more methodical than other pointing breeds? Most of them are. But the advantage to that is that, like my Daisy, they can go longer in warm weather than some of the other harder running breeds, and they can generally keep hunting several days in a row. Are Gordons good kennel dogs? No. Gordon Setters really do better in the home with their family. Can they do a little of everything the way the versatile hunting dogs will? Some can, some can't. Some Gordons actively dislike water, for example, but on the other hand, they are eager to please, and coupled with their high intelligence, that makes them very easy to train even to do things like swimming they wouldn't do by themselves. The bottom line is that if you want a gentle, easygoing dog that is full of love and has a phenomenal nose, you couldn't do better than a Gordon Setter.